sixth session, AI-driven Insurtech, revolutionizing insurance through intelligent automation. Please welcome our speaker, Mr. George Castleman, President of Insurtech Asia Association, and the moderator for this session, Mrs. Rista Katrini Manurung, AAJI.
Good afternoon. Semangat pagi.
Semangat pagi.
Ladies and gentlemen. I am Rista Manurung, the moderator of this session.
I'm George Castleman, your presenter today.
We will be talking about the AI-driven Insurtech, revolutionizing insurance through intelligent automations. Let's have a seat, George.
Yes, and congratulations to all of you who survived the first marathon day.
This is the sixth sessions, okay?
It is the sixth session.
But I believe that everyone is still enthusiastic and would be very eager to listen to you as well. All right, so before we start, I would like to read out the short bio of our presenter. So George is an innovative expert with a decade of experience in the insurance and fintech sectors. Currently collaborating with top insurance groups and the ADB to digitize insurance across Asia. He is also the founder of Insurtech Asia Associations and a board member for various ventures. Formerly the CCO at Zonghan Tech and co-founder of Anapi. George is also a best-selling author, educator, and also frequent speaker on Insurtech topics. So George, it's really great to have you with us in the last sessions of today. So before we start the session, I would like to give you context and what we are learning in this session. In the earlier session, George, we learned that as we are now undergoing the digital transformations journey, so we need to have the right strategy. Should we invest in cloud? Should we invest in robotic process automations? Or maybe in omni experience? Or digital health, metaverse, or artificial intelligence, your topics, the machine learning. So we all know that we will explore in this session as to how AI is enhancing the insurance process, right? We will also discuss the ethical and privacy concerns surrounding the use of AI in the insurance industry. And as we all know, since we launched the generative AI, such as ChatGPT, AI has become the new norm while still helping the pros and contras as of today. And as we harness the power of intelligence automation, it is very crucial that we strike a balance between innovations and responsibility. Okay, so as an Indonesian, normally we have the budaya culture to read a pantun. Do you know what pantun means? It's like a poem with a rhyme. Okay. So let me try, okay? Yeah. And I would like to ask the participations from the audience. We have millions of audience. Do you see millions of audience? And there's so many more as well through online. Okay. So audience, please, can you help me by responding to say cakep, yeah? With every line that I will read out. In the realm of artificial intelligence, Insurtech takes flight. Cakep, okay. Revolutionizing insurance with all its might. Okay. With algorithm sharp and data insight, we ensure a future of insurance that is clear and bright. Tepuk tangan dong. Okay, let's give a round of applause to George. George, you will have 30 minutes presentations and followed by a Q&A. For the audience, please make sure that you submit your questions through Slido, or maybe at the question and answer sessions, you can also raise your hand and address your questions.
Perfect.
Please.
Thank you so much, and very happy to be with you here this afternoon. I know it's been a long day, so it's hard to concentrate. I kind of see that it's been very tiring for everybody. So I'll try to keep it maybe a little bit shorter as well to give you an opportunity to really have some key takeaways. But at the same time, I think it's good to really understand what is going on, because you hear all different things about AI, automation, and everything else. So I try to keep it very simple for you. And my background has been in insurance, life insurance, around Asia before, and I've been in the senior roles before in the technology company as well. So kind of, I know what was really happening. So let's try to unpack it for you. Okay, so this is a very interesting example, because when we talk about automation, insurance was actually one of the early industries to adopt automation, and it started in 1891. So this is the counting machine that was used by Prudential in UK. They bought it from, I think, the manufacturer, but basically it was something that helped to automate counting of the cards, of the letters that was received. And it's an example that insurance was always very interested in automation, because it was receiving a high volume of transactions from the customers from the very, very early days. So insurance is no stranger to automation. So why is now a little bit different? We have tried the automation in the last 20 years, and I think the previous speaker from BCA was talking about the robotic process automation, all the digitalization. And it helps, but at the same time, it kind of limits in terms of what's possible. So it automates some of the processes that are very frequent, but it requires a lot of the expensive changes to it. It requires a lot of difficulty to scale it, to go from one process to the next process. It becomes very, very difficult. So it kind of limits the potential of what we have been able to automate up to probably this year. So if we draw a line in the sand and we say, beginning of 2023, what were we able to automate? It was very, very small, top of the iceberg type of automation. And it was very frustrating because there was a lot of investment gone into it. Insurtech also tried to automate, introduce this kind of digital technologies, but again, it limits it. So here's kind of some example underneath. I didn't want to draw too much attention to it, but again, kind of robotic process automation, introducing new digital solutions, it was all relatively limited. So that leaves us with a question. So what about this 90%? What about the rest of it? A lot of it is still in paper. It's complex. It has a lot of difficulties because it's non-standard. We know that previously for automation, you needed to go and do data cleansing, and it required difficulties, big teams of people looking at very boring type of things continuously to really introduce elements of automation. And then it was mix of online and offline. So that kind of left us with this big problem of 90%. So what do we do about this rest of the problem with the 90%? And this is where the interesting things really start to happen, because when I was previously in Indonesia, and I was doing all these things around automation, digitalization, it was really, really limited. You needed to have big teams doing a lot of different things to help to increase that level of automation. But now this year, I think most of you have tried this generative AI and really opening up this new possibilities for next phase of change, next phase of automation. And this is something that I think is a breakthrough for AI, because let's think about it. We probably for the last 5-10 years AI, ML was something that was talked about, but nobody was really doing it. It was one of those topics that perpetually was talked about, but very limited applications were actually coming out of it. Very kind of similar to the other hot topic was the crypto and the decentralized finance blockchain. It was also a very interesting topic, and it was very, very limited actual applications until this year. So what happened this year was that beginning of the year, ChatGPT launched, reached 100 million users really, really quickly, and really introduced this new type of shift in AI, because it basically took a quarter of the internet, all the information that's available, trained up this model. They became very, very good at connecting different words together, but actually introducing that level of intelligence that really led to its ability to understand some of the semantics. And it's very interesting because if you look at it, it's able to do things like translation between languages. It's able to figure out quite a difficult concepts to be able to create this new model. And when we're talking about AI, the topic of AI can be seen as very high level, and it's something that people think of like it's intelligent machine, like machine that can think. Reality is that it appears as if it's thinking, but actually it's a model. It's a computational model that is very advanced in its basis, because it took a much bigger data set than existed before. And because the cost of computing, the cost of cloud decreased, they were able to actually create this new model that is able to be a lot, let's call it intelligent in those terms. And this is where I think it got very interesting, because the data plus capacity to compute and then machine learning innovation combined together really created this very, very special step change. And I think once that happens, it really is interesting, because that really pushed a lot of the new investment into this area. A lot of the engineers, a lot of the talent is very attracted to see that there's some practical applications that can be done in this. So I don't think I need to talk to you much more about the AI, because I think most of you in the room have either heard or tried ChatGPT this year and kind of experienced that there is something that's really quite special about it. So how does it apply to our topic at hand today, the automation for this kind of a topic? I think it was very interesting to hear all the presentations through the day. So I kind of felt that a lot of the material, a lot of the introduction that was done was already covered. So for me, I think what's left is to help you connect these dots and really help you to think about how does it apply to your business. What can you tangibly do with this automation, let's say in the next 12 months? That's kind of a most realistic. And a lot of the businesses that I see, and I talk to a lot of the CEOs in the region for big insurance companies and non-insurance companies, are thinking about how do they introduce this automation into their businesses. And a lot of it has to do with training. I think that's what the gentleman from BCA was saying as well. So training new staff. One of the most interesting examples, for example, I've heard that the call center staff in one of the insurers is being using the generative AI to help them answer some of the questions. So it used to be that they used to be top performers in the call center, and then used to be kind of the rest of the staff, the performance used to be quite average. And then what the insurer was able to do is they was able to take all the information that the top performers communicate to the customers, and then give that as a prompt to their customer service, the average performers. And all of a sudden, the average performers became very much like the top performers. So everybody, without additional training or hours of training, especially on the new kind of newcomers, new staff that has come into the call center, which having a high turnover, all of a sudden is able to leverage this, let's call it knowledge, that the top performers are possessing, and is able to answer the customer's inquiries much, much better. So they saw the overall customer experience and customer feedback much improved during a very short period of time. So this is something that's very interesting, I think, because it's not about replacing people or saying like, okay, instead of the 100 people in the call center, now we can do it with the 10 people. I think the reality is that we will still need people, but we're able to make them more efficient. We're able to make them better at their service much faster than we were able to do before, and equip them with the right tools that give them ability to really understand what the customers are asking, and are able to train them and increase that learning. So customer service is one. Clearly another one is with the agents, with the new advisors that we're bringing on board to help them to get up to speed much faster, help them to understand some of the more difficult concepts. I have kids that are 11 and 9 in age, and now they're asking ChatGPT to supplement what they're learning in school. So they say, I don't understand this concept. Take a picture. ChatGPT explains the concept to them, and it's a lot of the times it makes sense. They used to come to me, but now they don't come to me, and I think ChatGPT is a lot better at explaining without giving a bias of kind of maybe the parents or the teachers have to that. So I think this kind of a concepts will increase the automation, is going to increase the learning, and very quickly we're going to start to see that it starts to propagate. Of course, it's not to downplay and to say that there are many unknowns and challenges that are there as well. So, we've heard that BCA have banned ChatGPT. Many other organizations are also banning because there are a lot of unknowns. It's a very new concept. If we think about it, maybe 9 months later, nobody have really talked about this concept, and all of a sudden this comes in. And it's really exciting, of course, to hear the speakers from the regulator side here, the speakers from Ministry of Finance saying that we want to see more innovation, we want to see the companies investing in technology. I think this is all the right messages. But I think what is obviously very important is to have the controls and to have the real understanding of how to control those risks in a risk-appropriate way. So I think right now we're kind of trying to find the right medium for it. So in the beginning, we've gone from zero AI to everybody's using AI to nobody's using AI. So now it's a little bit of finding that right calibration for the risks. And I think it's not going to be one or the other. It's going to be somewhere in between. So what we know is that, of course, there's challenges when it comes to data. And tools like ChatGPT and others are actively working to address it. So they understand that, of course, the organizations don't want to use their data and it's going to the public, and all of a sudden, the secrets from government organizations or privacy data starts to appear outside to the public. So they're actively working towards it to say, there is this public model, and we want to have a separate model that is going to be addressing to the individual needs of the organizations. So even for ChatGPT, for example, they have the public model where everybody uses it. They have the business model, which is a little bit more privacy-oriented, and they have the enterprise version, which is you keep your own data. We will not use that data to train the other models. So keeping the data separate. But I think this is something that is definitely a very important topic, and it will continue being with us for next foreseeable future, because the data used to be, we need to keep it on premise, we need to keep it separate from everybody else. Then the cloud topic came in where the data was segregated in the cloud, and now the topic of AI is also very important. And it is very important to think about it as part of this automation exercise. So what we have basically figured out is that as part of this automation, we need to have this general model and use that general model with private data to create this private model. And it's really about picking the right problem to address it first, and picking something that is is not going to be as impactful, and it's kind of a risk adjusted. So you can use, for example, your data in a call center, how the call center is communicating with the customers to really help to train up this private model and automate some of the functions that the customer keep on asking for. So for example, if the customer keeps on, first they want to change the address, or if they want to adjust the fund composition, this can help them to answer those questions, because this is something that keeps on continuously repeating. So the call center, instead of answering the same question time and again, can focus their time on something that is more value-added services to the customer when they have a real problem where somebody needs to claim. And then at the same time, you can also use it as a part of their claims process as well. So in the claims, we know that the fraud is a big concern. Last time when I was a CEO at AAJI here, we had really, really crazy fraud cases as well, where a family of 5 had the elective appendicitis surgery. And it's only when the claim person picked it up, because they saw that it was the same address, it was really purely by chance that they picked it up. So this kind of things, in this day and age, we should be able to pick it up as a first filter. So if we see that there is a pattern that is leading to a fraudulent claims, this can be trained very easily in the AI models, and they can pick it up. What I think is also important is, and everybody kind of talked about it, they said really at the core of this is the element of people and the culture. So as much as we talk about digitalization and innovation and the AI, it all kind of needs to translate back to the people, because people is really the starting point. And I've had many startups, we work with many startups in the region, with many insurers in the region as well, and all it comes down to this topic of people. They say it's very painful to work with the insurers. Every time we try to implement something, the people in the insurance companies are very traditional. So the question is, do you want to create a totally different unit that is dedicated to digital, that has its own challenges? Do you want to have a virtual team, like a virtual business account, but it's a virtual team dedicated to kind of putting all these people who are focusing on these topics? It's all possible. It really depends on what your organization is good at. So depending on your culture, depending on how to make it more successful, you will need to make the decision of what drives this best setup for helping to safeguard these people who are focusing on this problem. But it is very much about getting them the motivation and getting them the right culture to be able to innovate. And innovation is really all about trying again and again and again until you find the right solution. It's very, very foreign for most of the insurance companies to say that some things don't work and something that fail. We tried it once, no, it didn't work, okay, we go back to the way that things were done before. Innovation is, unfortunately, does require a lot of this experimentation. And as you can see, that there is a real need for it. And then if you look at the banks as an example, there are many banks now that set up the digital units that are separate from the core business, because what they realize is that every time they hire somebody who is young, passionate about digital business and fintech, and they put them into traditional business, 1 month later, they after pulling out their hair, they leave. They say they don't want to work there. It's very boring. It's very uninteresting. So it is really about how do you attract people, how do you retain those people, how do you give them the right culture so that they feel that it's interesting, it's fun, they're able to try new things, they're not looked down to if one of those things that they tried did not work. So people is critical. Data is also exceptionally important. So when we think about data, it is a lifeblood for all this kind of a future business model. So when we talk about digital, data needs to be something that you need to think about as something that is core to your organization. It's a core asset. And then I have a funny story as well. So last time when I was chatting to one of the insurance CEOs, and I was talking about how the startups are really focusing on data and creating data as an asset. He said, we have that data as well. I said, oh, okay, what kind of data do you have? He said, we have phone numbers, we have addresses, we have date of birth. But and then I said, look, we're talking about different data. The data like that is very, very narrow data. The data that we're talking about now for the future is going to be metadata, is going to be activity data, is going to be behavioral data, it's going to be all those things that are happening that you're able to say, this is the risk that this customer have. This is the family unit. I'm not looking at you as a product. I'm looking at you very much like a customer with your universe of risks. And my objective as an insurer is to help you manage those risks and avoid those risks as much as possible. So if you're a person that have a diabetes, I want you to help you manage diabetes. If you're a person that's trying to save towards your retirement or you don't have a pension because this is something that you as a gig worker haven't really put any money aside, I want to help you solve this problem in a way that works for you. It's not just about my product. And this is where the data comes in exceptionally critical. And to automate this, because when we're talking about, let's say, people who are in this more of a kind of a less affluent bottom of the pyramid setup, it's very hard to afford to have the person, like an agent, sit down with them, spend time to them explaining and revisit it, because it is a big cost. So the automation becomes really the key. But it is something that will take time. So the automation that we're going to be talking about for the 12 months is not going to solve 100% of your problem. But I think the important part is to really begin somewhere. And hopefully out of this whole session today and kind of seeing that you have the session starting in the morning saying the regulators on board, they're not prohibiting you from investing more in the technology, to all the speakers that kind of showing you the snippets of here is this part of the solution, you can do it, it is really about the culture. It gives you hopefully enough to go back and say, look, I think there is really something. And I'm hoping that out of everybody that's here with us this afternoon, that I know that not all of you are going to invest in it, but I'm hoping that if 10% of you are going to say, yes, we're really going to try to do something because we understand that this is imperative, this is critical for our business. This is going to start the mechanism of the industry transition. The unfortunate thing would be if, let's say, all of you walk away today and say, no, I think we're okay. Nobody else is doing it, so we're safe for another year. Let's kind of keep status quo. I think that would be a mistake, and it's going to be not good for the industry, not going to be as good for the customers. And I think this is going to be something that will open you for disruption from outside forces. So whether it's going to be a bank that's going to do it, whether it's going to be Google who is going to do it, or somebody else that's going to come in and let's say ChatGPT is going to, or OpenAI is going to look at it and say, look, nobody's solving this problem for insurers. Many more customers, many more people are coming in and asking me questions about insurance. I have a logical way to address this. I think that would be not a good outcome for the industry. And I think this is something that we need to work very actively to prevent. And the two things underneath it is really about cloud and security. I think this is not a new topic to most of you. I think it's really about putting the right framework, right foundation for you to process this automation that needs to happen. So I think last couple of things that I wanted to share quickly is from data to data strategy. This is a slide that I took away from one of the big data businesses globally that's called Snowflake. So what they're very focused on is that you need to have the data strategy. And this is quite new to most businesses because they just look at data as really like, by itself. I think the insurers that I've talked to, the big global guys, are really thinking about the strategy for data. And it's quite different from the strategy for your business. But it needs to be about how do you manage the data in a way that it's a really a critical asset for you. So I think this is something that's very important for you to think about. And if you go back and ask your strategy person, what is our data strategy? I'm sure they're going to probably take a second and say, oh, okay, I think this is something that I need to work on probably for next year. But this is an important question, and I think this is a question that needs to be asked. Okay, last thing. So we think about the speed of innovation, right? And the speed of innovation is going to be a breakneck speed. So many of you have probably tried ChatGPT. Whether it's you or your children kind of showed you, they said, wow, this is something that's amazing. And most of the innovation that happens during our lifetime, like we got our smartphones, it takes very, very long time for the next wave to come. But the incredible thing about it is that the ChatGPT speed of advancement is really, really rapid. So this was an announcement from like 2 weeks ago where ChatGPT can now see, hear, and speak. I don't know how many of you have tried it, but it is pretty incredible. I had a 1-hour conversation with ChatGPT earlier this week. And it is feeling very, very natural. So the innovation that's happening in this space is going to be very, very quick. And if you think that, okay, this is something that we worry about next year or it's not going to touch us, I encourage you to really try it. If I were to have one single takeaway for you from today's session and really for you to do something that's very tangible, I think most of you have tried the free version of ChatGPT. What I would encourage for you to do is to invest $20 and try the business version of ChatGPT. It's very, very different, and it will give you a very different insights. And inside of it, you can find this section where it says you can have a conversation with ChatGPT. This is going to be like one of the business problems for you to try. If you try it, it's really going to be something that I think will blow your mind. And it's one simple action that I think will give you a bit of a nudge in the right direction to say, we need to do something about it because it is really, really powerful, and the innovation is really accelerating. So 1 year later, I think what we're going to be doing is going to have a very, very different conversation about it because, it's the way that it's changing is really, really rapid. So that, to me, I think I kind of try to keep it quite concise. I know it's the end of the day, so I'll give you back 5 minutes. We maybe can do a little bit of a Q&A around it as well.
Thank you, George. Let's have a big round of applause first for George. Thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. So we come now into Q&A. Can I have on the screen questions from the floor or from Slido?
I think everybody is blown away and is like, whoa.
That's okay then. So if anybody from the floor also, oh, yes, we do have questions. The first question is generative AI a threat for current job? What is your view on this matter? I'm also afraid of losing my job. Okay, is that will happen? Replaced by AI?
Well, they do say that the legal is one of the professions that's going to be probably quite one of the first ones to be disrupted by generative AI.
Thank you for your answers. All right. So can you share your thoughts on this one?
I think it is a very important question, and I think the way to think about it is that it's more like a upgrade to our current job rather than a threat. The threat is if you don't do anything about it. The opportunity is really for you to use it as a tool for you to upgrade yourself and to keep very current with it. Because, let's say if my wife runs multiple restaurants in Singapore, and what she's been using it is, for example, is when she wants to have a conversation with her staff and she's very angry, she says like, okay, I want to scold them. What she does is she goes to ChatGPT and says, can you please say it in a nice way to my employee, and then the ChatGPT would translate it for her and say, okay, here's how you would have a more structured conversation. So is she worried about her job? No, I don't think so. Neither her employees are worried about it, but I think it's really about upgrading it to a next level where it helps to be much more professional in it and be kind of a 2.0 job.
So I would say that I'm still going to have my job.
You are still going to have your job.
All right, next questions. what is your view on data privacy and the challenge of growing the creativity on efficiency?
So the data privacy is an interesting one. I had recently a session with one of the big Vietnamese unicorns in the digital space. They asked me exactly the same question. They said, first of all, can we use, they're like a WhatsApp equivalent in Vietnam. So they said, can we use the user data to train our AI? And we had a very interesting conversation around it. And the data privacy component, I think, is very, very core to the conversation about the AI. It needs to be kept separate from public data. So I think where the privacy line is very, very clear is that it cannot go to a point where you're releasing private information to outside. So I think this is where it's very important to draw that line. Is the data okay to be based in the cloud? I think there's no other way around that. So that kind of a previous conversation of we're going to keep the data separate somewhere in our database, not going to release the privacy information outside. It is something that I think fundamentally needs to change. I think we had a conversation earlier to say that even Indonesia is making steps in it, like the policies can be delivered electronically, the data can start to kind of go into more of a digital realm. And I think that data privacy conversation will definitely progress from it. Creativity, I think creativity is still something that is hard to program into computers. So I think this is going to be something that's inherent still with humans. And this is where we need to find that kind of a natural symbiosis with the machine, where machine gives us the inputs, and then we add our layer to it, and then we kind of help to together be much, much better than it was before.
Thank you. I like these questions. Is all data under AI reliable? Who is monitoring the accuracy? Because of those data are coming from data available online. Do you need consent to take all of this data and use it?
So is all data under AI reliable? No. So we kind of know that it's prone to what's called hallucinations. So basically the AI tries to guess what are the right words that are coming together, and sometimes it's just way, way off. And who is monitoring the accuracy? I think that this is where the users are training the machine. So if you go to ChatGPT and have a conversation and say, wait a minute, like this was completely off. The other day I was having a conversation with ChatGPT, and all of a sudden it switched to Bahasa. I don't know why. Maybe I thought that somewhere it glimpsed that I'm going to be traveling to Indonesia, and decided to speak to me in Bahasa. I said, no, wait, why did you switch to Bahasa? Go back to English. So this kind of stuff, we as a users are the one that are training the machine. So the way that somebody's monitoring it is by user feedback. And this is how the machine is getting smarter, because we will say, this was completely off, this was okay. So in the beginning, it needs to have more hand-holding. It used to be that in the past, the training cycles were very, very painful, because it's like 8 out of 10 times we'll get it wrong. Right now, I would say it's maybe 1 out of 10 times that is really wrong. So you still have probably in the cases where the tolerance for error is very low, you still need to have probably a person monitoring it, but it becomes a lot faster. So for example, if the customer service staff receives a question, they might get, here's a top 3 response for you. So pick on which one is the best one. And if they look at it and say, well, this one is completely off, then the machine will learn and say, oh, this is probably a better scored outcome.
Do you hear this story? I mean, I got it from my WhatsApp group, you know. There was a story about someone is telling her sickness, conditions of her health in ChatGPT. So, and also uploading the result of the labs. And then ChatGPT respond by saying your life expectancy is only a month. So and that will discourage her, and she committed suicide. So what do you think about that?
I mean, it's definitely every technology has its faults, right? So it's not foolproof technology, and it's very clear, like the past iteration of it, where we've heard like a Microsoft chatbot which became very, very aggressive and telling information that was very negative very, very quickly. And that was only 3-4 years ago. So now that we've seen this kind of a next generation of information coming in, it does have its own biases, it does have its own errors. So it's kind of like used with caution, but it is something that I think is, like, I've been using it for a year for some of the work that I'm doing, some of the questions that I have, and it can answer you technical questions that are quite proficient, I would say. So if I were to ask it from a technical expert or from ChatGPT, the answer is actually getting quite close, and it's improving. So this technology will continue to improve the more we kind of train it, the more we guide it, and hopefully the questions that we ask it, you know, they're not life and death kind of a questions that you alluded to, because obviously there's some real risks behind that, and that's why I think it works much better when we have the person together with the machine kind of working together.
Thank you. We still have questions. Let's go to the next one. How can traditional insurance companies adapt to stay competitive in a rapidly evolving landscape influenced by AI and automations? What do you think?
I think it comes back to the point that I was making earlier. I think it's a question of staying competitive by being in this experimental mindset. So this is very, very different muscle to most of the insurance companies to do something that's different, to try new things. If you look at most of the insurance companies, it's very traditional, it's very risk averse, it's very huge. I think the example that BCA gave about like the oil tanker or big ship that is sailing is very real. So most of the insurance companies will kind of continue on that path. So it's really creating the speedboats that can experiment, the smaller teams, the 5-person team. Amazon, for example, calls it a 2-pizza team, so somewhere between 5 and 8 people that is really have autonomy to try new things and fail and try again. This is really going to be what the innovation is all about. So it's about creating the right culture, is encouraging people to try new things, bringing in new talent. It is all really, really quite key to this sustainable future. I think my guess is what's going to happen is majority of people that are here with us today, they kind of listen to it and say, oh, okay, I think we're going to be okay for the next 1 year. That's kind of a key takeaway. The digital wave came, the Insurtech wave came. It really didn't really kind of make a big impact for the insurance business. So it looks like we're safe. But I think the reality is that most of the other industries like digital banking is coming, EVs are disrupting the traditional car insurance business, car business, I would say. And then every industry is going through this kind of big transformation. Insurance, I think, is more secondary industry because we're dealing with more long-tail products, more complex products, and products that are, you know, multi-year products. So it's not the first industry to really going to get disrupted, but does it mean that it's safe from a disruption? I think it's definitely not.
When you were in Zhong'an, what are the key success stories in product and technology? Can you please share some case study, maybe?
I think for Zhong'an, again, there was a story of working with the platforms in a very platform-centric way. So where Zhong'an have really excelled is to come into big businesses and thinking of what are the problems for those big businesses and what are the problems of their customers. So rather than thinking about and saying like, okay, we have an insurance product, how do we plug into these platforms? How do we try to sell it? Is really changing that mindset and saying, number one, let's focus on this problem of, let's say, there was many platforms, so Grab is a good example. So Grab was kind of most successful example, and say, how can we help the Grab customers to realize the most value? So this end up being personal accident product for Grab rides and the insurance product for the drivers. You can kind of, you heard the income from Peter's story earlier this morning, talking about their kind of how the income is enabling it. But it's actually the Zhong'an underneath it that has facilitated that. They found that this is what's requirement. Went to Peter and the team who very kindly kind of created these products and really kind of brought this connectivity in. So it's really about focusing the case study and the real story behind it is focus on the problems that are there and opportunities, and then look at technology that can be solved to enable it, and then find the insurance product that can kind of bridge it together.
Thank you. Last questions maybe from me. You bring your phone again,
yeah,
because
should we try this thing?
Yeah,
that we
when I
tried earlier?
listened to your presentation, you said now ChatGPT can now see, hear, and speak. So maybe do a demo.
Yes, let's try it and see if that works. So why don't you ask your last question?
All right, let me ask the questions. Okay, what should I ask? Okay, I am.
Okay, just
Start?
a second. Yes. Okay.
Can it hear me?
Just a second. All right, we're listening.
ChatGPT, I have a questions for you. I am now with a lot of people, all coming from insurance practitioners. So the question is, should we make investment in artificial intelligence to support our business?
Investing in artificial intelligence can be a game changer for many businesses. It really depends on your specific needs and the industry you're in. What kind of business are you running, and what are you hoping to achieve with AI?
It's life insurance. Thinking again.
Since you're in the life insurance sector, AI could be particularly useful for data analysis, underwriting, and customer service. It could help you process claims more efficiently, make more accurate risk assessments, and perhaps even improve customer satisfaction with chatbots or automated advisors. However, it's crucial to weigh the costs and potential ROI before making such an investment. What specific areas are you looking to improve or optimize?
Can you repeat your explanations in Indonesian language?
So, berkait door asuransi jiwa, serkad serum pesan bebas sangat berguna untuk lisisa kesehatan oleh frisinga lagi plan. Teknologi ini bisa membantu Anda
Oh, okay, that's okay. That's why we said the reliability is still in question.
Work in progress,
Do you know
right?
what language is that?
I'm not sure. We decided. So, and this is, I think, is a good example, but it is really important for you to try it yourself. You can ask it any question that is, I encourage you, in fact, to ask the question about insurance. So ask a question, if I was, put yourself in the shoe of a customer, and say, I'm looking for health insurance, this is my background, what would you recommend to me? I'm based in Jakarta, and see what that answer is, and see if that blows your mind.
Thank you. A big round of applause for George. All right, before we part ways, let's remember that learning and innovation never truly stops. So let's celebrate the power of curiosity, technology, and human collaborations. I would like to thank for your active participations, and may you carry the spark of today's discussion into the exciting future of insurance. Keep learning, keep innovating, and let's meet again soon. Thank you. I would like to invite Ibu Hani to be on the stage to give a token of appreciation for our remarkable speaker, Pak George.